The White House tonight says this about the testimony by the top diplomat in Ukraine. Quote, President Trump has done nothing wrong. This is a coordinated smear campaign from far-left lawmakers and radical, unelected bureaucrats waging war on the Constitution. There was no quid pro quo. Joining me now, Fox News chief political anchor of Special Report, Bret Baier. He also has a brand new book out today called 3 Days at the Brink, all about World War II and what could have been, if for not some very serious discussions and meetings we'll talk about in just a minute. But first to today, because we were undoubtedly, Bret, making history today with all that's unfolding on Capitol Hill. What do you make of the Democrats' characterization of Bill Taylor, the top diplomat in Ukraine, of his testimony today?
Well, I tell you, to hear Democrats on Capitol Hill, they're ecstatic with this testimony. Our producer up there, Chad Pergram, described oohs and ahs from the behind closed doors inquiry. We did receive the opening statement, which is very long, from the acting ambassador to Ukraine, Bill Taylor, in which he says there were essentially two tracks happening with policy when it came to Ukraine, and tying the investigation into Burisma and 2016 seemed to, in his mind, be tied directly to the conversation that was set up with the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, and to funding. Now, here's the problem, is it's behind closed doors. We don't have access to exactly what transpired in the cross-examination, and Republicans tell a story of not being able to push back on some of the questioning. So I think this is potentially a big development, but we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, and that's what Republicans went out to the microphones and said, listen, this whole process continues to be one behind closed doors where the vast majority of House members are not even allowed to see the transcripts or be a part of these things. So there are calls, of course, for it to be more transparent. And if Democrats are going to get the American public on their side and convinced, and we do see the polls moving, folks on both sides of the aisle continue to say they think this needs to open up. And at some point, it would have to before we get to a vote. In the meantime, our own Chris Wallace said on Fox News Sunday this Sunday that he'd spoken to a very well-placed Republican who said they now put at about 20% the chances that the Senate would actually remove the president were he impeached. I asked Senator Mike Lee about that last night. Here's what he said.
This is nonsense. It's science fiction fantasy. Now, look, I have great respect for Chris Wallace. I don't know who he's talking about. I don't know who he's talking to, but whoever is saying this to him is wrong. There simply is not the support there. And the reason is the president hasn't done anything impeachable.
What's your sense, Bret?
One, he's right in this case in that we haven't seen the articles of impeachment, but let's just assume that they make this case. It seems like the biggest possibility is that the House votes to impeach and then the Senate does not get to a guilty finding on this trial, and they come short, and it's used as a political cudgel, if you will, by Democrats heading in to the 2020 election against President Trump. I think Senator Lee is right as far as counting heads. It's tough to believe that there'll be enough Republicans. But again, without seeing the articles of impeachment and exactly how they'll write them up, it seems like Democrats want to focus like a laser on this Ukraine phone call and the quid pro quo allegation to make it easy for the American public to understand.
There's also a lot of chatter on the Democrat side about the potential nominee that they may end up with. The New York Times today talking about the anxious Democratic establishment asking, is there anybody else? Talking about a couple of people who are not in the race who may change their minds. Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Bloomberg have both told people privately in recent weeks that if they thought they could win, they would consider entering the primary. Any chance you think on your radar, Bret, that Hillary Clinton takes another run at this?
I don't think so. I mean, judging by all of this controversy about what she said about Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard just over the past couple days, she is not getting a lot of points even within the Democratic Party. The other thing is just logistics, Shannon. You have to get on ballots, and those deadlines are coming up very, very shortly. I think it's interesting to see this New York Times piece. John Kerry's name mentioned. I don't know if John Kerry leaked that to the New York Times, but I think that there is a lot of worry about Joe Biden as a front runner, and you're seeing Mayor Pete move up in the polls in Iowa. The question is, an alternative to Elizabeth Warren is what the Democrats possibly are going to look for.
Okay, I want to talk about your book. It is out today, 3 Days at the Brink. It is fascinating. I'm not done with it yet. Mr. Bream and I are battling over this book, but just so many untold stories about what could have happened World War II and what did end up happening.
Yeah, at the brink is that the Allies really could have lost World War II, and we forget that looking back in history. And at this moment, November of 1943, FDR, Churchill, and Stalin agree to meet for the first time face-to-face in Tehran, of all places. Stalin makes the meeting. After a long journey, they get there, and they eventually agree to plan World War II D-Day, obviously the biggest battle of the war that ends up changing the course of the history. What is in this book are a lot of nuggets that have never been out there before. And it bounces back from that soda straw look of those 3 days to how FDR gets to that point. So it's kind of chock full, as the other books I've written about Eisenhower and Reagan, of things that haven't been out there before.
Yeah, it is fascinating, and we wish you all the best with it. Congratulations, Bret.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks for joining us.